Up the wall.
Hi Year 12s. We are annotating and analysing the cartoon by Fiona Kataskis, which appeared on the December the 2nd, 2016 in the publication The New Matilda. Alright, so let's have a look at it. There's going to be a heap of language and a heap of references that you're unfamiliar with. So that's something you need to be mindful of. We won't scare you too much in terms of inundating you with unfamiliar information, but you do need to perhaps Google some of this stuff so that you can unpack information in a way that shows your understanding of the issue. So I've just put some key terms up here before we think about the contention of what's being communicated here in the post-truth cartoon. And some key terms and words include the Bell Group, the arts debacle, the Great Barrier Reef, definition of Aboriginal, and metadata. Okay, so as a satirical cartoon, satire is a term that's used to describe a form of humour that really has a dig at politicians. So I think we can definitely establish the tone here is extremely satirical. The satirical tone really references some key happenings that were in the news in early December, late November of 2016. So there's a number of things that are going on here in terms of the political sphere that relate to this bigger question of post-truth. And of course in November we had the election of Trump, and so there's that kind of association with the term post-truth and then what's going on in Australian politics. So the cartoon really is a commentary on some of the concerning things that are happening at a federal level in our parliament. So we'll just start with the first statement, the barrier reef's in great shape. Okay, so if we're looking at post-truth, that's a facetious way of making reference to Pauline Hanson's view that the barrier reef is indeed in great shape and that climate change is a nonsense. And so we've got that whole connotation of gut responses, of emotive responses, shaping informed opinion in this post-truth world. So it doesn't matter that climate science disputes Pauline Hanson's claims. She took it upon herself to visit Great Keppel, to have a bit of a snorkel around and a personal investigate, and she's come up with the conclusion that the reef's in great shape, the habitat's fine, there's no such thing as coral bleaching, etc., etc. She even managed to break off a bit of coral when she was having a bit of a swim, just to show people that it is in fact very healthy. So the fact that she's swimming around in an area that's on the endangered list and is protected from any kind of human harm and intervention, again highlights her ignorance about the issue of climate change. So the cartoon there reinforces her visit to the reef and shows her proudly holding a bit of coral that she's using to display for the purpose of reinforcing her emotive and factless claim that the Great Barrier Reef's in great shape. So that's the first post-truth claim that we're dealing with in the left-hand corner here. If we move down, there's more references to Pauline Hanson. Another statement that she made pertained to the definition of Aboriginal, and so she bought into this argument about Aboriginality, and according to Sky News, has said that there's no definition of what an Aboriginal person is. that the issue is about equality. So that quite ignorant statement is referenced in the cartoon to again add weight to the argument that she is somebody who is representing the constituents of her Queensland electorate in the federal parliament in a way that is concerning, given her ignorance on a number of key issues. So we've got two contrasting issues here, one relating to Aboriginal people and one relating to the environment. So the two examples confirm that she really does not have the kind of depth of knowledge and understanding of issues that you would think would warrant somebody having, being that they are occupying a fairly important role as a parliamentarian. Okay, and then we've got the kids, of course, saying that's the definition of ignoramus. So we've also got perhaps a play on this post-truth reference, with it being noted, I think, as the Macquarie Dictionary's word of the year in 2016. So there may in fact be a connection between the little girl's use of the dictionary here to verify Pauline Hanson's claims that there's no definition of Aboriginal, and she finds under the definition of Aboriginal, there's no definition of Aboriginal, that's the definition of ignoramus, again reaffirming Pauline Hanson's lack of understanding of these issues. So if we move up to the right-hand corner, we've got another politician who's referenced here. So clearly we know that Pauline Hanson is aligned to One Nation. In fact, she's the leader of the One Nation party. We've got Senator Brandis referenced here. So he is a member of the Liberal Party, and in fact his job is the Attorney General. So the Attorney General, if you look that up, that's another one of our key terms. We've got his position outlined as being the Chief Law Officer of the Crown. So 12 Red, we talked a lot about the way that terms such as post-truth and indeed blatant lies by politicians threaten to undermine the very nature of democracy and the establishment of those institutions that work to preserve the truth. So one of those institutions, of course, is the judiciary. So if we're thinking about Attorney General Brandis and what he's been up to, we need to reference that against his status as the Chief Law Officer of the Crown. So he's somebody that really should be completely above scrutiny. So he's the representative of the judiciary in Australia, and hence he should be really super clean. So he should be very transparent and very willing to cooperate in revealing any information about his political activities and his interactions with key people. So is that the case? Let's have a look at this. So we've got allegations, or we've got a push to ditch Brandis. Okay, so something's been going on there, so you might want to do a bit of investigating there in terms of why there have been appeals for Brandis to lose his job. So we've got Turnbull down here having a look at the pros and the cons. So, you know, there's this kind of caricature of Turnbull that depicts him as a little bit kind of maybe ignorant, not like Pauline Hanson, but maybe a little bit too trusting in terms of not recognising the seriousness of these allegations against Brandis. So if we're looking at, again, post-truth and the importance of our political institutions and those people who are holding very important roles in maintaining accountability within our political institutions, if we've got the Prime Minister Turnbull completely dismissive of any wrongdoing, then maybe we've got some concerns there. All right, we still haven't worked out a contention yet. We might come back to that. So let's have a look at what Turnbull kind of does in terms of evaluating whether Brandis has a role within his administration or whether he should lose his job. So we've got references here to the Bell Group, the Gleeson Arts debacle, metadata, and just general incompetence. And then the pros, he's the best we've got. So you might want to have a look at the Bell Group, the Gleeson issue, the arts debacle, and metadata. So there's some key things there. I'm not going to go into detail about a lot of them, but it's worth noting that the thing that unites all of those dot points is about freedom of information. So Brandis is accused of being quite deceptive and secretive in his handling of a number of issues. So the Bell Group is a court case involving the Bond estate that is yet to settle. So that was something that's kind of carried over from the 80s, and he hasn't been very transparent in terms of cooperating with demands to release information about some meetings that he's been having with key players in this issue. And so there have been attempts to get his diary under Freedom of Information. The Freedom of Information Act is an act that enables the media as well as the opposition to procure information that they think is important to look at in terms of what politicians have been up to, etc. So he's been less than cooperative about that. He's also been less than cooperative about releasing his own personal computer data. So there have been requests made that he be forthcoming in handing over that information, but he's been uncooperative. This Gleeson character, he's tied up with the Bell Group issue. I'm not sure about the arts debacle, but you can see here that these dot points reveal that the Attorney General perhaps is being less than cooperative in complying with the expectations that his behaviour as a politician and as the Chief Law Officer of the Crown should be transparent and visible. Okay, so that's perhaps why the cartoon suggests that his job really should not be secure. Moreover, that Turnbull should be far more decisive in getting rid of him. So that's the stuff about Brandis. And then we've got, and everything is just fine. So there's two things going on here. There's the fact that Brandis is clearly abusing his position of power in a way that's quite deceitful, and even if everything's above board, the connotations of wrongdoing are there simply by the fact that he's not willing to release this information through the Freedom of Information Act about his diary appointments, about the meetings that he's been having, about any information on his computer, all that kind of stuff. So that in itself is a bit concerning. Okay, and of course we've got Turnbull there, and his ignorance or his willingness to turn a blind eye to all of that, which is again reinforcing the notion that in a post-truth world, the truth doesn't have a lot of value. So we're concerned about that. Okay, then in this bottom corner here, and I haven't done much research about this, so we're seeing, I suppose, Turnbull again being held to account by a number of politicians who are walking away from a crumbling Parliament House, we're assuming, and yeah, maybe it is Rome's burning. I know Miss Brooks and I spoke about this, whether it's actually ancient Greece, in terms of ancient Greece is the birthplace of democracy, but I'm just looking at the flames there, and maybe it is a metaphor about the burning of these democratic institutions that potentially could have a Roman connection as well. Doesn't matter anyway. What we see is that democracy, because of the way that politicians are choosing to behave and to act, is in jeopardy. So the very foundation of democracy as we know it, which is based on the principle of truth, is in question here. And so all of the images here reinforce the way that the institution is threatened and crumbling here. And we've got the togaed Turnbull playing his violin, his last swan song perhaps, reflecting maybe the way that personal agendas have sacrificed the more noble democratic cause of truth-telling and transparency as a way of ensuring that they can maintain their positions of power. So we're left with a disaster here in the bottom right corner, as democracy as we know it is called into question in this post-truth world. Okay, so in terms of establishing a contention, I think what the cartoon is arguing is that the way that politicians are able to avoid checks and balances and scrutiny in the current political climate is a threat to the democratic foundations that are at the heart of the Australian political scene. So something like that, okay, the way that these individuals threaten or corrupt that broader political institution of democracy as a hallmark of our society. Okay, that should give you enough to contemplate as you unpack that, and hopefully then you'll be able to make some connections with the other two articles that we are analysing at the moment. Okay, have fun.